Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. We're going to learn about Winston Churchill's life in a simple and easy to understand way. This story is perfect for practicing your English listening, birth, childhood, and family. Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born on November 30th, 1874, at Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire, England. He came from a prestigious family with a long history in British politics. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, was a famous politician who served as Chancellor of the Exchequer. His mother, Jenny Jerome, was an American socialite known for her beauty and charm. Winston had one younger brother named Jack. Unlike many children of wealthy British families, Winston did not have a close relationship with his parents during his childhood. His parents were often busy with social and political activities. Instead, Winston was primarily raised by his nanny, Elizabeth Everest, whom he called Womb. He developed a deep bond with her, and she remained an important figure in his life. Churchill's childhood was marked by privilege, but also loneliness. He was sent to boarding schools at a young age, which was common for British aristocratic families. Winston was not a naturally gifted student and struggled academically. He was also known for his rebellious nature and often got into trouble at school. Despite these challenges, young Winston showed early signs of the determination and resilience that would later define his character. Education and formation. Winston's formal education began at St. George's School in Ascot when he was 7 years old. He was not happy there and performed poorly in his studies. His parents then transferred him to Brighton, where his academic performance improved slightly. At age 13, Winston entered Harrow School, one of Britain's most prestigious boarding schools. At Harrow, Churchill continued to struggle with subjects like Latin and mathematics. However, he excelled in English and history. His teachers noted his remarkable memory and his talent for writing. Winston also joined the school's rifle corps, which sparked his interest in military matters. Despite his academic difficulties, Churchill developed strong speaking skills by memorizing and reciting long passages from famous speeches. After graduating from Harrow in 1893, Winston applied to the Royal Military College at Sandhurst. He failed the entrance exam twice before finally passing on his third attempt. This early setback taught him the value of persistence. At Sandhurst, Churchill trained to become a cavalry officer and graduated 8th in his class of 150 cadets in 1894. This military education provided him with valuable leadership skills and a deep understanding of strategy that would serve him well in his future career. Early professional career. After graduating from Sandhurst, Churchill was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the 4th Queen's Own Hussars, a cavalry regiment of the British Army. Seeking adventure and recognition, he arranged to work as a war correspondent while on military leave. This unusual arrangement allowed him to report on conflicts around the world while still maintaining his military status. In 1895, Churchill traveled to Cuba to observe the Spanish fighting against Cuban guerrillas. His articles for the Daily Graphic newspaper marked the beginning of his writing career. The following year, he was posted to India with his regiment. During his time there, Churchill read extensively to compensate for his limited formal education. He studied works of history, philosophy, and economics, essentially giving himself a university-level education. Churchill's big break came during the Boer War in South Africa in 1899, while working as a correspondent for the Morning Post. He was captured by Boer soldiers after a train ambush. Churchill managed a daring escape from the prisoner of war camp and traveled almost 300 miles to safety. This adventure made him a national hero in Britain and launched his public career. Upon returning to England in 1900, Churchill used his newfound fame to enter politics. At just 25 years old, he was elected to Parliament as a Conservative member for Oldham, beginning his long political career, personal life, and relationships. Winston Churchill's most important personal relationship was with his wife, Clementine Hozier. They met at a dinner party in 1904, but didn't begin their romance until they met again in 1908. After a brief courtship, they married on September 12, 1908. Their marriage lasted 57 years until Churchill's death in 1965. Clementine was not just Churchill's wife, but also his closest advisor and supporter throughout his political career. The Churchills had 5 children: Diana, Randolph, Sarah, Marigold, and Mary. Family life was not always easy for them. Their daughter Marigold died at the age of 2 from an illness, which deeply affected both parents. Churchill's relationship with his son Randolph was often strained, while he maintained closer bonds with his daughters. Despite his busy political life, Churchill valued family time and often spent holidays with his children and later his grandchildren. Beyond his family, Churchill formed strong friendships with many important figures of his time. He enjoyed the company of artists, writers, and fellow politicians. Churchill was known for his loyalty to friends, even when it was politically disadvantageous. He maintained a wide circle of acquaintances from various backgrounds and was famous for his dinner parties, where conversation and debate flowed freely, along with good food and plenty of champagne. Which was his favorite drink? Major achievements and contributions. Winston Churchill's greatest achievement was his leadership during World War II. When he became Prime Minister on May 10, 1940, Britain stood alone against Nazi Germany. Through his powerful speeches, Churchill inspired the British people to continue fighting despite the threat of invasion. His famous words, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall never surrender," gave hope to millions during Britain's darkest hour. As a wartime leader, Churchill worked tirelessly to build the Allied coalition. He developed strong relationships with U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt and Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. These alliances were crucial to defeating Hitler. Churchill traveled thousands of miles during the war, often at great personal risk, to meet with Allied leaders and visit troops on the front lines. His strategic thinking and determination were vital to the eventual Allied victory in 1945. Beyond his wartime leadership, Churchill made significant contributions to British politics throughout his long career. He served in Parliament for over 60 years and held numerous government positions. As First Lord of the Admiralty before World War I, he modernized the British Navy. As Chancellor of the Exchequer in the 1920s, he returned Britain to the gold standard. Churchill also played an important role in creating social reforms, including unemployment insurance and labor exchanges, which helped ordinary working people. Churchill was also a prolific writer and historian. He wrote over 40 books and countless articles throughout his life. In 1953, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for his historical and biographical writings, especially his 6-volume history of World War II. His books not only earned him fame and financial security, but also helped shape how future generations would understand the major events of the 20th century. Challenges and obstacles overcome. Throughout his life, Churchill faced numerous personal and professional challenges. One of his earliest obstacles was his speech impediment. Churchill had a lisp and sometimes struggled with certain sounds, particularly the letter S. Rather than letting this limit him, he worked diligently to overcome it through practice. He became one of history's greatest orators despite this difficulty. Churchill's political career was marked by dramatic ups and downs. After the failed Gallipoli campaign in World War I, which he had advocated for as First Lord of the Admiralty, Churchill was forced to resign from the government. This period, which he called his wilderness years, was a time of great personal disappointment. However, Churchill refused to give up. He returned to active military service as a battalion commander on the Western Front, before eventually returning to politics. During the 1930s, Churchill faced another major challenge when he stood almost alone in warning about the growing threat of Nazi Germany. Most British politicians supported a policy of appeasement toward Hitler. Churchill was criticized and marginalized for his views. For nearly a decade, he was excluded from government positions. This period tested his resolve, but Churchill remained steadfast in his warnings, which were ultimately proven correct when World War II began. Perhaps Churchill's greatest personal challenge was his battle with depression, which he called his black dog. Throughout his life, he experienced periods of intense depression and mood swings. Despite these mental health struggles, Churchill maintained his productivity and leadership abilities. He managed his condition through constant activity, creative pursuits like painting, and the support of his family, particularly his wife Clementine. Winston Churchill's legacy is immense and multifaceted. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest wartime leaders in history. His defiance of Hitler and refusal to consider surrender in 1940 changed the course of World War II and world history. Without Churchill's leadership, Britain might have sought peace with Nazi Germany, potentially allowing Hitler to dominate Europe completely. Churchill was also a visionary who foresaw many developments of the 20th century. After World War II, he was among the first Western leaders to recognize the threat of Soviet expansion and coined the term Iron Curtain to describe the division of Europe. In a famous speech at Fulton, Missouri in 1946, Churchill warned about the dangers of communism, effectively marking the beginning of the Cold War era. As a statesman, Churchill advocated for European unity after World War II. He called for a United States of Europe to prevent future conflicts on the continent. While Britain did not initially join the European Economic Community, the precursor to the European Union, Churchill's vision helped inspire European integration efforts that continue to shape the continent today. Churchill's writings and speeches continue to influence political discourse and inspire leaders around the world. His words are frequently quoted, and his leadership style is studied at military academies and business schools.